Outside, the rain poured down. When she found him, his face was lost in a passionate embrace with another woman. The woman's sickeningly sweet voice echoed in her ears like a curse, haunting her mind, leaving her stunned and unsure of what to do. The key she clutched tightly fell to the ground as she stood frozen outside the bedroom, feeling, for a moment, utterly abandoned by the world. "Babe! Why are you here at this hour?" Hearing the commotion, he hastily pushed the other woman away, frantically pulling on his pants. But perhaps due to his arousal, it was still exposed. She felt nauseous, wanting to vomit. At the moment she needed him most, the man who claimed to love her was entangled with another woman. How ironic. She had come to the wrong place tonight, he couldn't save her. "I came to the wrong place, I apologize for the disturbance." Drenched by the rain, she clenched her fists and turned to leave. "Who are you scolding? You're the one who married his Tristan for fame and fortune, and you expect him to remain chaste for you." Kayla Song, the notoriously arrogant woman, draped in a nightgown, her face delicate, spoke. Only then did she clearly see that it was Violet Dunn, the eldest daughter of the Dunn family, who had recently become very close to him, with rumors circulating about their family's intention to unite them. "Did I say anything? Did I scold you or him? If you have fire in your heart, go find your own man to vent it on, don't drag me into this." Her face pale, a cold smile played on her lips as she spoke. "I wish you two a long and happy life together." With that, she didn't bother to look back. Seeing this, he seemed flustered and chased after her, grabbing her hand. "Babe, let me explain. There's nothing between me and Violet Dunn. You know I've always loved you," he said hurriedly. "Nothing?" How dare he say there was nothing between them when they were clearly entangled on the bed? She looked at him, her eyes ashen. Knowing her disappointment, he remorsefully continued, "Babe, Tristan doesn't like you, and you don't like him either. I've told you, as long as you get a divorce, I'll always be waiting for you." He paused, pleading, "Give me another chance, okay? I promise this will never happen again. You're soaked, why don't you stay and change your clothes? Ah, you've shown me that I should stop. From now on, whoever you're with has nothing to do with me." Her voice was soft but firm. Hearing this, he froze. Did she want to break up with him? They had grown up together since childhood, he couldn't believe she could forget him. It wasn't until he saw her leaving that he came to his senses, looking down at the blood on the ground. It was hers. The bloodstain, faded by the rain, had seeped into the carpet, almost invisible except for a few pale spots where the red showed through. Could it be that the recent death of the old man and the power struggle within the family had affected her too? Damn it! His eyes widened, and he immediately rushed after her. Before reaching the villa, she had desperately escaped her kidnappers from an abandoned factory on the outskirts of town. They wanted the access code to her grandfather's Swiss bank account. She looked fragile but was incredibly resilient, refusing to utter a word despite their brutal torture and beatings. After escaping, the first person she thought of was him. But unexpectedly, she witnessed this betrayal. It was all right, just an immense pain in her heart, as if her last support had crumbled. Walking without an umbrella, unable to distinguish between rainwater and tears on her face, the wounds on her body aching, she suddenly heard the roar of an engine in the rainy night, bright headlights shining from afar. Terrified, she didn't want to be caught again, nor did she want to die. Panicked, she started to run. But how could two legs outrun four wheels? A painful fall sent her sprawling face-first onto the ground. The monstrous black car screeched to a halt, its wheels mere centimeters from her body. Gasping for breath, she soon heard the car door open. A tall man, holding an umbrella, stepped out. His elegant suit, polished leather shoes, each step firm on the ground. Their eyes met, the man's face, illuminated by the car's headlights, was profound and handsome. Their third encounter since obtaining their marriage certificate. Each meeting filled her with caution. Her fear of him stemmed from the deep-seated impression of the young family. Everyone in the family was wary of him. They said he was crazy, a demon. Ever since he was expelled from the family, he was no longer a member of the young clan. Yet, the old master wanted to force her to marry him. Tristan. She called out in fear, her voice trembling. On the way to the hospital with Kayla Song, Tristan Young was unusually quiet. Anxious, she glanced at him and softly asked, "Tristan, when did you get back?" Tristan Young had been living abroad, returning a month ago at his grandfather's behest to marry her before promptly leaving again. He hadn't even attended his grandfather's funeral a few days prior, so his sudden appearance now left Kayla Song utterly bewildered. Today. His voice was low, smooth, and laced with a compelling magnetism and subtle dominance. "When are you leaving again? Are you that eager for me to go?" Tristan Young looked at her calmly, settling into a chair beside the hospital bed, his powerful presence filling the room. Kayla Song quickly shook her head, barely daring to breathe. "No, it's not that, I just don't want to disrupt your work." "It's already disrupted." Tristan Young stated plainly, his features as perfect as a sculpted masterpiece. Kayla Song instinctively recoiled under the covers. This stifling feeling wasn't much different from being kidnapped, just with better accommodations. "I'm sorry," she apologized, her voice laced with insecurity. Just then, an assistant knocked and entered, carrying a bowl of porridge. Kayla Song, who hadn't eaten all day, brightened at the sight, but assuming it was for Tristan Young, she bit her lip and suppressed her hunger. However, Tristan Young, after accepting the porridge and picking up the spoon, made a move as if to feed her himself. Startled, Kayla Song quickly sat up. "Tristan, I can eat it myself." Tristan Young seemed not to hear, testing the temperature of the porridge before bringing it to Kayla Song's lips. She had a feeling this meal might not sit well, but she didn't dare protest. A moment later, something occurred to Kayla Song. "How did you find me on the road?" Tristan Young glanced at her, giving her no quarter. "Finish eating first." Subdued, Kayla Song silently finished the porridge, occasionally stealing glances at Tristan Young after lying back down. He set the bowl down, thoughtfully handing her a tissue before speaking. "Kayla Song, what do you think our relationship is right now?" Kayla Song tilted her head, the words slipping out. "You're my grandfather's son, and I'm his adopted granddaughter." He raised an eyebrow, his ink-black eyes unfathomable. "Is that all?" That had been true before. Then, her grandfather had arranged for her and Tristan Young to get married. Kayla Song didn't understand his intentions, but raised by him as she was, she couldn't refuse. Besides, her grandfather had said the marriage would be short-lived, but before he could explain why, he'd fallen gravely ill and lost his ability to speak. Seeing Kayla Song's silence, Tristan Young crossed his legs, shifting the subject. "Who do you think is behind your kidnapping?" "I don't know. Anyone interested in the code she possessed could be the mastermind." She didn't dare return to the Young family, and she had nowhere else to go. The chilling realization hit her, she didn't even have a single friend to turn to. Kayla Song looked at Tristan Young with alarm and worry. Tristan Young, his expression unchanged, calmly said, "I can help you find the mastermind, and I can also help you escape the Young family." "Why?" she asked, a hint of disbelief in her voice. "Didn't grandfather tell me to marry you temporarily for this very reason?" Tristan Young's voice was even, as if he were talking about something unrelated to himself, his tone not cold, but indifferent. Old Master Young knew that after his death, his sons and daughters would undoubtedly fight for power. And in his will, he left Kayla Song a considerable amount of shares, even telling her the password to his Swiss bank account. All of this needed someone to safeguard for her. Without a doubt, her cousin, who had been working abroad for many years, was the best choice. With him by her side, she could safely navigate the turbulent power struggles of the Young family. However, she had heard that it was the old man of the Young family himself who had personally sent her cousin, still a child at the time, to a mental hospital. If her cousin's maternal grandfather hadn't come to take him abroad, he might still be wasting his youth in that hell on earth. Did grandfather promise you something? She cautiously probed. Her cousin's gaze deepened as he looked at her and softly spoke, perhaps the longest sentence he had ever spoken to her. I never do anything that loses me money. Kayla, you just need to remember that you are mine now, so be mindful of your words and actions. I won't let you suffer. The young family will be here soon, you should prepare yourself. Prepare herself. Prepare to feign innocence and ignorance. She took a deep breath. A moment later, the door to the hospital room was pushed open, revealing a woman in elegant attire. Seeing her, the woman's eyes welled up with tears, like dew-kissed flowers, and she began to sob. Kayla, what happened to you? Where are you hurt? How am I supposed to face your grandfather like this? The smile on Kayla's face gradually became strained, her heart cold as ashes. Grandma, don't worry, I'm fine. Julia. Jiang was the third concubine of the old master of the young family, only in her early 40s, her beauty still captivating. It's good that you're all right. Later, come home with me to the young family. I will definitely find those villains for you. Julia Jiang spoke with heartfelt sincerity, as if she was deeply distressed for her. Kayla glanced at her cousin, who was leaning back against the window, silent. Julia Jiang followed her gaze, her expression suddenly paling. Grandma, Tristan and I have already registered our marriage. He wants me to move out, Kayla said, obediently lowering her eyes, cleverly passing the buck to her cousin. Julia Jiang was so furious that she jumped up, her finger trembling as she pointed at Tristan, her voice strained. Tristan Young, a crazy thing like you can forget about taking Kayla away. You didn't even bother to come to your own father's funeral. Do you even consider yourself a member of the young family anymore? Get out of my sight. Don't think I don't know your dark intentions to steal Kayla's assets. I'm telling you, that's the young family's property, you have no right to covet it. Julia Jiang's fingernails, usually painted a vibrant red, were bare for the mourning period, yet their sharp, hawk-like points still hinted at a cruel nature. Her brother-in-law gave her a dismissive glance, his demeanor icy. Julia Jiang gritted her teeth. Thankfully, her adopted sons hadn't all arrived yet, a direct confrontation with him now would be disadvantageous. Patience was key. Soon enough, the rest of the young family from the other 4 rooms arrived, transforming the quiet hospital room into a bustling hubbub. Looking at those seemingly familiar faces, one thought echoed in her mind, wolves in sheep's clothing. Henry Young, as the eldest grandson of the eldest branch, was naturally among them. Yet, he couldn't explain anything to her in front of his elders, so he simply stood silently in the corner, his fists clenched. Kayla, I heard you want to move out and live with Tristan Young. Your third uncle absolutely forbids it. Don't you know how he killed his own mother? What if he has another episode? You'll be in danger. In their eyes, Tristan Young was nothing more than a madman, extreme, excessive, and violent. A lunatic who dared to point a gun at his own father, murder his mother, and even attempt suicide by jumping off a building, causing Julia Jiang to miscarry and rendering her infertile for life. He was nothing but a psychopath. Leonard's right. Kayla, come home with me to the Young family estate. I'll find you the best private doctor. Julia Jiang glanced at Leonard Young, gently persuading her brother-in-law. She remained silent, lying still and weeping softly. Henry Young frowned slightly and spoke, Kayla, the conditions at home are much better than at Tristan's place. Why don't you come home? It'll be easier for everyone to take care of you. Someone had targeted her right after her grandfather's death. If she returned to the Young family, who knew what fate awaited her? She looked at him for a long moment before finally looking away. Besides fifth uncle, who else could she rely on now? The man by the window parted his lips slightly, his voice indifferent, Kayla Song is my wife. Why would she live with you? Tristan Young. You have the nerve to say that? If you considered Kayla Song your wife, why didn't you stay by her side and take care of her after the marriage registration? Why wait until her father's death to put on this act of concern? Your intentions are clear to everyone, Yen Qian said with a cold laugh. DFCB9F0B #F1, I was busy before, now I'm free, Tristan Young replied dismissively. I was busy before, free now, Tristan Young replied contemptuously. After all these years, it was time to settle the score between them. The old man wanted him to protect Kayla Song, essentially turning her into a pawn in his game. You damn brat. How dare you speak to your third uncle like that? Don't be so insolent. Tristan Young. If you truly despise your relatives on this side, then get out of here and out of our sight, his stepmother shrieked. I was busy before, free now, Tristan Young replied contemptuously. Shaking with rage, she shrieked, You dare speak to your mother like that? Have you no decency left? You have the audacity to call yourself a mother, an elder? You're nothing but a home-wrecking third wheel, and you think you deserve respect, Tristan Young scoffed, his voice dripping with contempt. Everyone was stunned. The stepmother, who had always reigned like a queen in the Young family, had never been spoken to in such a manner. Yet, today, exuding an overwhelming aura, Tristan Young stated coldly, Kayla Song needs rest. Do you want to leave on your own, or do I have to show you the way out? Her eyes bulged. You dare, there's nothing I don't dare do, Tristan Young's voice was glacial. The confrontation ended swiftly. Seeing them leave, she breathed a sigh of relief. She murmured, thank you. He looked down at her, just thank you. I suspect you'll be saying that to me quite a lot from now on. She nodded. She was about to say something more, but Tristan Young spoke first, his voice indifferent, I have a purpose for everything I do. You don't need to think I'm being overly altruistic. It was Tristan Young's blunt honesty that she appreciated. At least he respected her. So, Tristan, how long will you be staying here? Kayla Song hesitantly asked. I'll be taking care of you for at least the next year. He looked directly into her glistening eyes as he affirmed. Hearing him say that, a warmth spread through her. Tristan Young was truly reliable. 1 year, she thought to herself, I must be strong. She would stand on her own 2 feet in this city. She softly inquired, there's a board meeting at the end of the month where grandfather's will be read. Try Tristan, could you accompany me? He nodded in agreement, all right. Sensing Tristan Young's agreement, a feeling of security washed over Kayla Song. She hesitated slightly, could I ask you for one more favor? He looked at her, what is it, gesturing for her to continue. Grandfather asked me to give some things to Brian Hudson. Tristan, could you help me find this person? She said softly, a strange unease rising within her, unsure whether he would agree or refuse. 7 parts of the cash in the Swiss bank account that she knew of were entrusted to her by her grandfather, to be given to this person. Could this be the treasure that Tristan Young sought? I can look, but finding him is another matter. Tristan Young nodded, asking nothing further. Kayla Song was stunned, not expecting him to agree so readily. She thought to herself, Tristan was actually quite easy to talk to. Though a bit cold and ordinary, he treated people sincerely. Get some rest. I'm going out for a bit, Tristan Young said, lighting a cigarette and stepping out into the hallway. Under the dim light, his handsome features became even more enigmatic. Half a month later, Kayla Song was discharged from the hospital. Tristan Young personally picked her up and took her to Prime Prestige Estate. This was a villa Tristan Young had purchased some time ago in River City, a prime location within a high-end residential area. Housekeeping staff regularly maintained the property. The young master resided in the master bedroom, while she was accommodated in the guest room. He personally arranged the luggage brought from the Dong family estate, a variety of items, yet he organized everything neatly. Dusk settled, past 6 o'clock, yet he hadn't returned, and the old housekeeper was nowhere to be seen. Feeling hungry, she sat on the living room floor, watching television. Suddenly, the sound of the door echoed. She hurried out, finding him leisurely loosening his tie, calmly answering his phone as he entered. The call ended, and he stood before her, his features picturesque, gently inquiring, "Have you had dinner?" She subtly shook her head. He lowered his head, softly asking, "Do you not know how to cook?" "No. I don't." She shyly replied, deeply embarrassed that, as a woman, she was so inept she'd never even attempted a fried egg. "Kayla, do you know how to do laundry?" As if recognizing her weakness, he continued to probe. Her lovely face flushed crimson. She stammered, "I know how to use a washing machine, and I can hand wash too." Back at school, the housekeeper always did the chores. Had the old master pampered her to the point of complete domestic ignorance? He raised an eyebrow, surprised by her lack of pretentiousness despite her circumstances. Turning towards the kitchen, he began retrieving ingredients from the refrigerator and washing them. She trailed behind him, her hands nervously intertwined. He inquired, "Have you ever picked vegetables?" "No, never." Like a child admitting a mistake, she obediently confessed. Slightly exasperated, it seemed he was exhibiting remarkable patience with her. He shook his head gently, "Then tell me, what are you good at?" "I don't have any particular talents, but if I had to say, perhaps, mahjong." Thinking she couldn't hide it forever, she boldly answered. He froze. Mahjong? That was what she considered her forte. He uttered meaningfully, "Can you win?" "Of course, I win. My record is over 800,000 yuan in a single day. Usually, I can win a few tens of thousands just by playing for a short while." As she finished, noticing his meaningful gaze, her voice trailed off. He exclaimed in surprise, "You appear so demure and virtuous." A virtuous woman can still play mahjong. It's a national treasure. Besides, I enjoy it, it's a way to pass the time. "Tristan, do you play?" Her voice was soft and sweet, like honey. She was breathtakingly beautiful, her aura refined, her features picturesque, like the most enchanting scenery of Jiangnan. A smile played on his lips as he prepared to answer, but his phone rang. After a brief exchange, he turned to her, saying, "Go change your clothes." "What's happening?" she asked, bewildered. "I'm taking you to dinner, and, to play mahjong." "Eastern Majesty." As he escorted her into the private room, she felt a flutter of anticipation. Resplendent in a vibrant red dress, she was breathtakingly beautiful, a perfect match beside him. Just then, a rude voice sneered, "Oh, Young, are you really marrying her? Don't you know about her and Louis Young? You'd be better off marrying my sister, at least she's clean." Her steps faltered, her eyes turning icy as she glared at the arrogant man, her nails digging into her palms. "I have nothing to do with Louis Young." These men were supposedly his close friends, yet they dared to insult her so brazenly in front of them. And since when had she become some kind of dirty woman? The bespectacled man beside her, who looked rather gentle, scowled at the other man. "Liam K., shut your trap. Go brush your teeth before spreading your stink mouth here. Don't embarrass yourself in front of the lady." Then, pointing to Lance Taylor, he smiled gently at her. "This little punk just got dumped yesterday, so he can't stand the sight of any happy couples, especially a stunning pair like you and Tristan Young." Tristan Young remained silent, his expression as calm and imposing as ever. After sitting down, Kayla Song politely advised, "The best way to get over heartbreak isn't to mock others, but to calmly take your medicine." Lance Taylor crossed his arms and asked with a sneer, "What kind of medicine should I take?" "Sleeping pills," Kayla Song replied with a sweet smile. Inwardly, she thought, "Just take your pills and go to sleep, so you can stop running that foul mouth." Silence descended upon the room. The men turned their gazes towards her. Asterisk, she actually dared to talk back after being insulted like that. I thought she was a delicate white lotus, but she's got a black heart inside. A perfect match for Tristan Young. Asterisk, watching Lance Taylor's face darken, a hint of amusement touched Tristan Young's eyes. He said to Kayla Song, if anyone's rudeness bothers you, feel free to be even more impertinent. I've got your back. A strange warmth stirred within Kayla Song. How did he know she was upset? Lance Taylor said to Tristan Young irritably, I'm doing this for your own good. Not only are you not grateful, but you're letting Kayla Song get all high and mighty. Do you want to be her uncle or her husband? What kind of training is this? You barely acknowledge the Young family, so why are you so indulgent towards her? I'm willing, Tristan Young replied, raising an eyebrow. Ahem. David White adjusted his slipping glasses and said with a refined chuckle, are we eating or not? Can we settle any grudges later over a game of mahjong? Kayla Song had mentioned being a skilled mahjong player, but Tristan Young hadn't quite believed her. Until after dinner, when Kayla Song sat down for a few rounds with his friends. He lit a cigarette with interest, watching her. Beside him, the expressions of the others began to change. Kayla Song, are you having Young show you his tiles? How else could you be winning so much? You even got a 9-gated hand. You're cheating, aren't you? Lance Taylor rapped on the mahjong table, his face grim. He'd been losing consistently. He couldn't believe a seemingly innocent young woman could play mahjong so skillfully, her predictions uncanny. Kayla Song touched a tile, smiling gently. Not really, just a bit of luck. Look, everyone, a self-drawn win again. She laid out her tiles with casual, fluid grace. David White, after observing Kayla Song's hand, replaced his glasses. He had to admit, her mahjong skills were impressive. Poor Lance Taylor had been getting trounced since the game began. Lance Taylor gaped, his handsome face contorted. Unbelievable, he gritted out. I refuse to believe I can't win a single hand against you tonight. Kayla Song chuckled softly, but before she could respond, the door to the private room burst open. Instinctively, she turned to see a group of aggressive-looking men barge in. Dressed in street clothes, they brandished clubs with a thug-like swagger, clearly having bypassed security. Search the place. They stole Leo Long's stuff. They attacked indiscriminately, a chaotic brawl erupting. Kayla Song, startled, hid behind Tristan Young, her hands clenched tight. Tristan, she whispered urgently, a thought striking her. I heard that name, Leo Long, when I was kidnapped before. Oh. The same group. What are they up to? Tristan Young's eyes narrowed. With a swift move, he sent one of the charging men sprawling. Dodging a metal pipe, he then kicked another attacker across the room. Each of his movements was precise and powerful, radiating a chilling aura of lethal skill and profound martial arts. Mastery. Kayla Song watched, a mixture of fear and awe churning within her. Chaos reigned, the room filled with the clang of violence. David White's expression was grim, while Lance Taylor, seemingly finding an outlet for his frustration, fought with increasing ferocity, snatching a pipe and displaying impressive kung fu skills of his own. A mere brawl. Nothing to fret over. Hadn't they all experienced such skirmishes abroad? If not for their current high-profile positions, which discouraged public displays of violence, Lance Taylor would relish this kind of action. Suddenly, a man grabbed Kayla Song's wrist with bone-crushing force. She cried out in terror, but before she could react, Tristan Young smashed a wine bottle over the man's head. Blood spurted, and Kayla Song's face paled, her eyes reflecting Tristan Young's terrifyingly cold expression. Get behind me, Tristan Young commanded coldly. Why yes. Tristan, be careful. Kayla Song bit her lip, acutely aware of being a liability. What were these people really after? How dare they cause trouble at Eastern Majesty? What's their aim? It can't be to kidnap her, can it? Could the Young family be so desperate, driven mad by that bit of property? Kayla Song hid behind the sofa, Tristan Young, David White, and the others implicitly protecting her. Even Lance Taylor, who usually loved to argue, shielded her. Time seemed to stretch endlessly. Seeing Tristan Young besieged, Kayla Song was frantic, itching to jump in and help. Thinking this, she instinctively slipped off a high heel, intending to use it as a weapon. Seeing Tristan Young struck by several blows, Kayla Song couldn't hold back any longer. She hurled the high heel towards the crowd. The result. Damn it! She meant to hit his attackers, but it smacked Tristan Young right on the forehead. Unbelievable. Tristan. Kayla Song nearly collapsed, hating herself for her blunder. Despite this surprise attack, Tristan Young fought even harder, the heel's sharp point leaving a red mark on his forehead. Fury boiled inside him, urging him to yell, but the situation didn't allow it. Kayla Song. Stay back. Tristan Young was forced to divide his attention to warn her. Tristan, I didn't mean to. Kayla Song's eyes were red-rimmed. Didn't mean to, did you? Pretty rough move, hitting young master in the face with your shoe. Living too high on the hog, are we? Lance Taylor, noticing the incident, taunted recklessly. I didn't hit Tristan in the face. Shut up. Kayla Song snapped. Saw it with my own 2 eyes. Still denying it? Kayla Song, you've got some serious cheek. He sneered. Tristan Young shot him a frigid look. Enough. Wasn't this chaotic enough? Seeing everyone around him injured, Tristan Young asked David White, where are they? Why aren't they here yet? Almost here. Hold on a little longer. David White wiped the blood from his face, the veneer of politeness gone. Ah. Just when it seemed things might turn around, Kayla Song was snatched. Her hair was yanked, her legs kicked hard. She cried out once in terror, then went silent. The club was about to come down, Kayla Song gritted her teeth and squeezed her eyes shut, refusing to show fear. If she felt the pain, she wouldn't be able to bear it. Yet, moments later, the expected agony didn't arrive. Instead, she felt herself enveloped in a protective embrace, a haven of warmth and breath against the chaos. Tristan, are you all right? Kayla Song looked up in astonishment at Tristan Young, who had shielded her from the potentially fatal blow. For the first time, she realized that a man's struggle could be so captivating, so breathtakingly handsome. Tristan Young couldn't answer. His ribs felt shattered, each breath a searing lance of pain. He could only manage to raise a hand and gently stroke Kayla Song's hair, a silent reassurance. Then, he turned, presenting her with a broad, unwavering back. Tristan. Kayla Song watched him, her empty heart filling with an inexplicable emotion. Why did he protect her? Why wasn't there a single word of reproach? She was nothing but a useless hindrance to him. He shouldn't have cared about her at all. Kayla Song didn't know how long the brawl lasted. She only knew Tristan was hurt, badly hurt. By the time David White's men arrived, the bruises blooming on his face made her heart ache. The already dim lights of the room seemed to darken further. The floor was littered with shards of glass, her discarded high heel lying amongst the sharp fragments. Tristan Young walked towards her, turned, and crouched down. Get on my back. I'll take you to the hospital. No need, I can walk myself. Kayla Song bent down, her tone resolute. Or do you want me to carry you? Hurry up, don't waste time. David White has already called an ambulance, it's waiting downstairs. Tristan Young's expression was impassive, giving her no room for refusal. Kayla Song rarely cried, especially in front of others. She didn't want to appear weak, to feel so vulnerable. Yet, as Tristan Young carried her on his back, her head nestled against the nape of his neck, her eyes reddened like a little rabbit's. Since old Mr. Young's passing, no one had treated her with such kindness. How could such a strong, aloof man be so gentle, so utterly captivating that one would willingly die in his arms? Tristan Young felt the dampness against his collar, the soft sobs against his back. A complex mix of exasperation and something else stirred within him. Kayla Song, stop crying. Tristan, I'm sorry. Guilt flooded Kayla Song's heart. Oh, what good is an apology? Considering how Big Brother Young protected you, take my sincere advice, in 2 days, wash up nice and clean, crawl into Big Brother Young's bed, and give him some practical gratitude to show your appreciation. You know what I mean, right? Lance Taylor, leaning on someone for support, his leg limping, couldn't resist chiming in. Kayla Song froze, her cheeks flushing crimson. Tristan Young shot him a cold glance. Lance Taylor, watch your mouth. Be careful with that third leg of yours. A lascivious grin spread across Lance Taylor's handsome, devilish face. We've been brothers for so many years, don't you know I'm joking? Kayla Song, now you've fought alongside us on the battlefield, remember my advice. Go home and cuddle your Howard Young. By the time you have kids, his silly little sister will probably give up hope. This guy, so inappropriate, talking nonsense. Kayla Song was speechless. However, judging by Lance Taylor's tone, it seemed, his sister liked Tristan Young. Was Tristan this popular? She bit her lip, pondering. The police took away the troublemakers, and Tristan Young and the others boarded the ambulance to the hospital. On the way, Kayla Song leaned wearily against Tristan Young, not wanting to move. Seeing this, Tristan Young gently suggested, why don't you get some sleep? Kayla Song drifted off, only to wake up the next morning. Noise filtered in from outside the hospital room. Tristan Young and Kayla Song were in a VIP room. She sat up in her bed and looked at the man who had been injured the night before, now sleeping peacefully. Kayla Song withdrew her gaze, clenching her fists. She had a good guess who was causing the commotion outside. After adjusting her clothes, she opened the door and stepped out. Leaving the room, she carefully closed the door behind her, careful not to disturb Tristan Young. Kayla. Kayla. Are you hurt? I told you it's dangerous out there, why didn't you listen? You've made your family so worried. Julia Jiang, who had just been berating Tristan Young's assistant, changed her expression the moment she saw Kayla Song. Tears streamed down her face before she even finished speaking. Kayla Song forced a smile. I'm sorry for worrying you, Grandma. Once again, it was Tristan who saved me. Let's see, the mastermind behind tonight's chaos, who among them was it? Uncle, second uncle, third uncle, fourth uncle, or this kind Grandma Julia Jiang? Kayla Song lowered her eyes. Julia Jiang embraced Kayla Song, wailing dramatically. He saved you. Kayla. Don't be fooled by Tristan Young. The times I came to see you before, he sent people to chase me away. He's a wolf in sheep's clothing. You can't stay with him. Come home with me, Grandma will protect you. Grandma, I'm Tristan's wife now, he won't do anything to me. I've just been a little unlucky lately. Kayla Song feigned ignorance, speaking innocently. Before she could finish, Henry Young pulled her away from the crowd, saying curtly, I'm taking Kayla Song away for a moment. We have something to discuss privately. Henry Young dragged her to the hospital corridor, his anger erupting. Kayla. How long are you going to play dumb? You clearly know someone in the Young family is after you. Come back with me, trust me, I'll protect you completely. Did she want to use those words to taunt him? Fine. He would defy everything. Even willingly marry her publicly. Everyone in the Young family is dangerous. If you weren't a little foolish, do you think you'd have survived until today? Kayla Song's lips curled slightly, her voice indifferent. She had learned to hide herself early on, did someone in the Young family really think they could use tactics like last night to scare her into returning? Naive. She wasn't a fool. Where was the danger? Didn't she know? Moreover, in just a short time, their whole family had come to the hospital to cause trouble. She didn't believe they hadn't used special means to get information. Henry Young tightened his grip on her wrist, his face darkening. You know, there are so many people in that family, there must be plenty of villains. But compared to the Young family, Tristan Young is even more dangerous. He's the Grim Reaper, he'll kill people. Kayla. Is the Grim Reaper more dangerous than a little devil? If you say so, I think I can follow the Grim Reaper. After all, the little devil can't do anything to the Grim Reaper, but the Grim Reaper can crush the little devil. Kayla Song gave a wry smile, her eyes cold. Don't be stubborn. Kayla, I know you're still angry with me, but why won't you give me a chance to explain? That night, Bella Shen and I were just too drunk, it was an accident. Henry Young didn't know how to explain it to her anymore. The Kayla Song in front of him was like a hedgehog, curling up whenever threatened. Hearing this, Kayla Song stared at Henry Young. Henry Young, I thought you were a real man. But it turns out you're just a kid about my age. A man knew how to take responsibility for a woman, while a brat didn't even know what responsibility was. She shoved him hard, straightening up. Henry Young, actually, the first thing you said disgusted me. You probably don't know how I felt when I went looking for you that night. You can betray once, hurt once, and there will be a second betrayal, a second hurt. You have no credibility with me. I don't believe you can protect me. She held grudges, deep grudges, and was petty, especially in matters of the heart, not tolerating a single grain of sand. You don't trust me, but you trust Tristan Young. Kayla. Are you drugged or something? Why have you become like this? Divorce Tristan Young, and I'll register our marriage immediately. Henry Young blocked Kayla Song, his brows furrowed, speaking in anger and frustration. Kayla Song was stunned. What did he say? Marry her. She couldn't help but scoff. It seems you've forgotten that Grandpa already married me off to Tristan Young. Grandpa trusted Tristan Young, so why can't I? Compared to everyone else in the Young family, she would rather choose the path her grandfather left for her. Kayla Song returned to her hospital room. Tristan Young was awake, lying in bed on the phone. She gently closed the door and sat quietly listening to him talk. He was discussing last night's events. The police had taken statements. It turned out those people were used as scapegoats, unknowingly blocking Tristan Young's gun, likely aiming to intimidate Kayla Song and force her to return to the Young family. Tristan, the Young family came just now, did you know? Seeing Tristan Young hang up, Kayla Song asked. Yeah, they had come, and he had sent them all away. Did they reveal anything? Kayla Song was a little anxious. Not so fast. Tristan Young glanced at her. Seeing he didn't want to say more, Kayla Song fell silent for a moment before changing the subject. Right, Tristan, you haven't eaten anything, you must be hungry, right? Not hungry. Kayla Song gave a wry smile, slightly embarrassed. This way, she didn't even have a chance to curry favor. How could she win Tristan over? She thought for a moment, then stood up and walked towards the bathroom. The bathroom was very clean, without even a single dirty piece of Tristan Young's clothing. Unwilling to give up, she went to the wardrobe to check. Tristan Young's suits were hanging inside, but they were all neatly arranged. After a while, Tristan Young noticed her pacing around the room and asked, looking for something? Ah. Kayla Song turned to look at him, biting her lip. I'm looking for your dirty clothes. I can't just eat without doing anything, right? I'm pretty good at housework, you know. She wanted to do laundry. Tristan Young was at a loss. No need for you to bother. You were very tired yesterday, weren't you? Rest a bit more. No, Tristan, I want to do something for you, otherwise I'll feel bad. Your condition is even more serious than mine now, I can take care of you. Kayla Song said firmly, her eyes glancing at the wash basin by his bed. She ran over in a few steps. She sat down, taking out the wash basin, and asked, Tristan, are these your dirty clothes? Tristan Young glanced at her, seeing that he couldn't stop her, he frowned, pretending not to see anything. However, the next second, Kayla Song's eyes widened. This in the basin, were blood-stained underwear. Dark, sexy stripes. Masculine. Clearly Tristan Young's from last night. Oh my God. How embarrassing. Kayla Song swallowed, feeling like she was holding a hot potato. She looked up at Tristan Young with her clear eyes, only to find him engrossed in his phone. I. She stammered, wanting to throw the basin away somewhere just to end this whole ordeal. Her face flushed crimson. This was so humiliating. It turned out she had mistakenly taken Tristan Young's underwear. Kayla Song squeezed her eyes shut, grabbed the basin, and stood up abruptly. Let me wash this for you. It's a little dirty, but I'll definitely wash it clean. Tristan Young watched Kayla Song's hastily retreating figure, a faint smile playing on his handsome face, subtle and fleeting. It took Kayla Song almost an hour to wash the underwear before she finally hung it out on the balcony to dry. If he didn't know how clumsy she was with housework, Tristan Young would definitely be looking at her with a knowing glance. However, being around a man like him, she didn't need to worry about such embarrassing incidents, because Tristan Young wouldn't mind. If Kayla Song couldn't forget the incident, he would definitely find a way to distract her. For example, right now, Tristan Young started discussing the future with her. I remember you majored in journalism. Do you have any plans for the future? He asked. Kayla Song had interned at a newspaper, but after her grandfather Dung was hospitalized due to a serious illness, she quit her job and has been unemployed ever since. Of course, she still had a decent amount of money in her bank account. Kayla Song hesitated. Should I look for a job now? Actually, I was planning to wait until Young Corporation stabilizes before going back to work. Yes, that's good, safer, Tristan Young replied, unaware of the secret plot Kayla Song harbored. She occasionally wrote articles for newspapers, often exposing the inside stories of Young Corporation. Through this, she connected with some anti-fan groups online, steering public opinion. The reason Kayla Song remained safe during her grandfather's hospitalization was because of the articles she published online about the Young family's inheritance battle. Although the articles were later taken down, they had already attracted a lot of attention online. If the Young family were to target Kayla Song now, they would be seen as villains getting their just desserts. Therefore, the cunning individuals within the family wouldn't dare to act against her at this moment. While Tristan Young was hospitalized, work piled up. So, Kayla Song volunteered to stay and take care of him, encountering quite a few comical situations. Things like forgetting to add salt to the soup, cooking porridge into rice, burning the soup, happened as regularly as clockwork. She should have been making Tristan Young feel touched, but in the end, they had to rely on takeout. Tristan, I'm still learning. I'll do better next time. Kayla Song said, her voice lacking confidence as she ruined another dish. Tristan Young looked at her without saying a word. After the last incident where she spilled porridge all over him, he had given up hope on her culinary skills improving. The fact that she could do laundry was already good enough. In his eyes, Kayla Song was still a little girl who couldn't do anything. David White and Lance Taylor walked in to see Kayla Song huddled beside Tristan Young like a little wife, making promises. Lance Taylor couldn't help but burst out laughing. Despite his injured leg and needing crutches, he was full of energy, teasing Kayla Song, "Wow, such sweet talk. What do you want to eat? I'll have brother-in-law Young make it for you. Do you want to learn culinary arts that badly? Come here, I'll teach you." My skills aren't anything to brag about, but they're enough to make everyone look up to me. Believe him, my foot. Kayla Song glanced at Lance Taylor. What do you know? This is called sharing weal and woe. Although she knew she was clinging to him, Kayla Song had to admit that she was also doing this out of conscience. After all, Tristan Young had saved her twice. She owed him so much. If she didn't do this, how could she repay his kindness? Lance Taylor sat down on the sofa, biting into an apple washed by Kayla Song herself. Shameless. He hasn't even agreed to be your boyfriend yet, and you're already clinging to him. Don't cry when he rejects you. Kayla Song walked over, placed the fruit plate on Tristan Young's bedside table, glared at Lance Taylor, and said with displeasure, "Now I understand why she broke up with you. Can you not be so petty? What does my relationship with Tristan have to do with you?" Her demeanor was truly like that of a rightful mistress, not allowing any outsider to interfere in their family affairs. The mention of "she" made Lance Taylor's face darken and his mood sour. That woman was still a lingering pain in his heart that he couldn't forget. Moreover, every time he visited Tristan Young, he noticed Kayla Song acting more and more like the lady of the house, never giving him a moment's peace, always finding a way to tease him and Tristan Young. As an outside observer, David White smiled gently and wisely kept silent to save face for both sides. Then he returned to the main topic and inquired about Tristan Young's condition. The board meeting of Young Corporation is the day after tomorrow. Are you feeling all right? David White's voice was tinged with worry. Still calm, Tristan Young accepted the lychee offered by Kayla Song and replied indifferently, "Seeing me in the hospital like this, do you think I'm in good health?" Kayla Song was about to speak when Tristan Young interrupted, causing her to lower her head and softly say, or should we not go?" Tristan Young was completely surprised that it was Kayla Song who spoke up. He looked at her, his expression returning to its usual coldness. "I'm not dead yet, so why wouldn't I go?" Both David White and Lance Taylor sensed the slightly awkward atmosphere between Tristan Young and Kayla Song and exchanged knowing smiles. "Aren't you afraid something might happen at Young Corporation if you go? Kayla Song is always so thoughtful and caring. Who she's worried about is for you to figure out yourselves. Only she knows what's in her heart." Tristan Young wiped his hands with a tissue as if nothing had happened. Then he turned to Kayla Song and said, "Kayla Song, those who dare to defy me will pay a heavy price. Showing weakness would only encourage them to push further, they would definitely escalate from threats to actions. Showing goodwill this time would only lead to them walking all over him in the future." "Tristan is right," Kayla Song smiled at him. The magnificent Young family estate. The board meeting was scheduled for 10 o'clock, but by a little past 9, everyone from the Young family, save for Tristan Young and Kayla Song, had arrived. Young Corporation, established nearly 60 years ago, possessed immense capital, with the majority of the Young family's assets and shares concentrated in the patriarch's hands. This elder, once among the top 5 richest individuals on the Forbes list, held an esteemed position within the Chinese community, but high places are cold, and in his twilight years, the patriarch deeply mistrusted those around him. Aside from Kayla Song, who offered him companionship and conversation, the old man often remained silent and withdrawn. Thus, when Lawrence Barrister, the patriarch's personal lawyer, announced that the old man had drafted his will long ago, a tremor of shock ran through the Young family. Each of them had assumed they could wrangle a larger share of the inheritance, but it turned out the patriarch had anticipated this. The meeting room was opulent and imposing. Julia Jiang, elegantly dressed, stroked her freshly manicured nails and said with a gentle smile, "Mr. Barrister, nearly everyone is here. Could you perhaps give us a preview of the will's contents? It is a Young family matter, after all, and we all have reason to know beforehand." Lawrence Barrister glanced at his watch. "Madam Young, please wait a little longer, until Kayla Song arrives." Julia Jiang maintained her smile, but her heart turned to ice. "Kayla Song. What the hell was that chit? Why must even the reading of the patriarchs will wait for her arrival? Could it be that the old man left her a substantial portion of his wealth? Julia Jiang sneered. Kayla Song ran off with Tristan Young, hasn't even bothered to come home. Mr. Barrister, do you still consider her a member of the Young family? Exactly. Kayla Song changed her number, cut off contact with all of us, clearly showing no respect for her elders. I've long suspected she's been bewitched by Tristan Young. Ian Young chimed in immediately. Yet, Lawrence Barrister calmly stated, actually, not only must we wait for Kayla Song, but the old man also stipulated that young Master Tristan must be present. Tristan Young. That title hadn't been uttered before the Young family in nearly a decade. From a young age, Tristan Young possessed a mature demeanor, the patriarch's most cherished and beloved son. Who in River City hadn't respectfully addressed him as, young Master Tristan? How could my father be so muddled? Tristan Young is no longer a part of the Young family. Mr. Barrister, I advise you to be professional and avoid showing favoritism. The stern voice belonged to the second young son, Howard Young. Lawrence Barrister's words left the entire Young family in stunned silence and hushed discussion. What was the patriarch's true attitude towards his youngest son? Why must he be present at a Young corporation board meeting? Enough arguing. It's father's wish, and we must respect it, regardless. It's not yet time, so what's the harm in waiting for Kayla Song and Tristan Young? Philip Young, the eldest son, presiding over the meeting and also Eric Young's father, responded with a gentle, conciliatory tone. In the Young family, everyone had to give Philip Young some respect, not only because he was the eldest son, but also because he was the CEO of Young Corporation, the family's cash cow. Not long after, Tristan Young and Kayla Song appeared in the meeting room. Tristan Young, impeccably dressed in a suit, maintained his usual cold and domineering demeanor, while Kayla Song stood demurely beside him, appearing obedient and pure, politely bowing to each elder upon entering. Julia Jiang feigned a response, beckoning Kayla Song over, but Tristan Young intercepted. Tristan Young. What are you doing? Are you trying to ruin our family again? Kayla Song is naive, you're taking advantage of her for some shady purpose, aren't you? Seeing this, Julia Jiang roared angrily. Kayla Song had always been obedient, Julia Jiang absolutely didn't believe she would do something so rebellious without Tristan Young's instigation. This was likely the thought of every Young family member except Jason Young. Tristan Young ignored her completely, instructing the conference secretary to bring another chair and sat down with Kayla Song. Philip Young glanced at Victoria Thompson, who snorted, suppressing her anger, crossing her arms and haughtily lifting her chin. Seeing her silence, Ian Young also closed his mouth. Philip Young then commenced the meeting, first reporting Young Corporation's business performance to the shareholders, then having Lawrence Barrister announce the will, and finally completing the legal procedures. What do you think, how will Grandpa arrange things? Kayla Song quietly asked Tristan Young privately. I don't know. After all, the old man was gone, and he hadn't spent much time with him. Kayla Song glanced at the dignified Lawrence Barrister. I have a feeling Grandpa might leave you something. Just now, Lawrence Barrister looked at you meaningfully. Oh. Tristan Young narrowed his eyes, tapping his fingers lightly on the table. Even though Grandpa didn't mention you, he let me follow you, which shows he values you in some ways. Kayla Song said. Tristan Young smiled faintly, his eyes cold as he joked, values me how? Asking me to take care of you is valuing me. Kayla Song froze, not understanding his meaning, lowering her head and saying softly, Grandpa and old Mr. Young were comrades. He promised he wouldn't let anything happen to me, so I know he trusted you. But, old Mr. Young is gone, and I don't intend to let you change your impression of me. Tristan Young nodded. At this moment, Lawrence Barrister stood up, it was his turn to announce the will. However, before announcing it, he looked at Tristan Young, seemingly having something to say. Young master, regardless of what I say next, you won't interrupt, will you? Or will you follow the old master's wishes? Lawrence Barrister inquired. Tristan Young turned his head to look at him, his voice indifferent. That depends on what you say. Lawrence Barrister shook his head, sighing with a hint of helplessness on his face, and without further ado, tore open the sealed envelope and began to announce the will. The first will distributed the shares of the Young family members in Young Corporation. Not everyone in the Young family had shares. For instance, Victoria Thompson didn't, Tristan Young didn't, and neither did the wives and offspring of the old master. Philip Young received the largest share, 20%, but Kayla Song, like him, also received 20%, with the remainder divided amongst the others. Victoria Thompson gritted her teeth. If the current situation allowed, she might have exploded. Philip Young glanced at Kayla Song and smiled warmly at her without saying anything further. Kayla Song politely nodded in return. Next came the second will, dividing the Young family's assets. Young Corporation was the largest asset, but after years of business, the old master's real estate, land, and other fixed assets had accumulated a substantial sum. This time, Victoria Thompson received a small portion. Kayla Song also received a share. In fact, everyone with the Young surname received a share, except for Tristan Young. He leaned back in his chair, his handsome, perfect face expressionless, as if being ignored was a matter of course. However, Kayla Song, sitting beside him, felt his aura growing colder. She looked at him, handed him a glass of water, and softly said, "Tristan, have some water." "Why should I drink water?" Tristan Young turned to look at her. Wouldn't drinking water help to cool down? But Kayla Song couldn't voice such words. She smiled. "You seemed thirsty, so." Before she could finish, Tristan Young interrupted, "You're mistaken." Tristan was angry. Kayla Song had been by his side for nearly a month and had more or less figured out his temperament. If he wasn't upset, Tristan Young certainly wouldn't have flatly rejected her offer like that. His previous indulgence had always radiated around her. It seemed that Tristan Young also had some affection for the old master. Otherwise, even if the old master had some agreement with Tristan Young would certainly never take care of Kayla Song. "Tristan, my shares are yours, and my assets are yours too." Kayla Song suddenly mustered her courage and whispered. The meaning of her words was clear. With their current relationship, what the old master gave her was equivalent to giving it to him. Actually, Kayla Song didn't value money too much. What she wanted was a peaceful, simple life in River City, where her grandfather, family, and the old master had always lived. But there were malicious individuals who wouldn't let her live in peace, so Kayla Song had always been troubled about how to continue to exist, until the night Tristan Young appeared. Tristan Young looked at her, picked up his teacup, and took a sip. "If he gave it to you, you keep it." The third will arranged the positions of the Young family siblings in Young Corporation. Philip Young took over as CEO. Howard Young, though dissatisfied, didn't show it outwardly, and as for the position of chairman, the old master didn't mention it. At the fourth will, Lawrence Barrister paused, looked at Tristan Young, and walked over, directly handing him the will. Tristan Young raised an eyebrow and took it. "Lawrence Barrister, what do you mean?" Howard Young immediately questioned. Lawrence Barrister turned around and said, "This was specifically left by Mr. Young for Young Master here, and it doesn't concern assets, so I don't think it's necessary to announce it in front of everyone." "That's impossible. When Dad was alive, he didn't allow Tristan Young into the house. Could it be that after his death, he wants him to appear grandly in front of the Young family?" Howard Young said coldly. "Read it." Tristan Young glanced over the will and coldly returned it to Lawrence Barrister. In fact, the content of the fourth will was very simple. It only stated that the old master loved Tristan Young's mother very much and wanted Tristan Young to move Lily Grace's grave next to his. The old master had a total of 3 wives. The first wife was arranged by his parents, and they had 4 sons together, the eldest, Philip Young, the second, Howard Young, Ian Young, and Dung Hon. Later, they divorced, and the first wife became a Buddhist nun, and it's said she has now passed away. The second wife was Lily Grace, whom the old master met on a trip. She was 2 decades younger than him, and they were once deeply in love, but later, something happened, and their relationship fell apart. They had only one son, Tristan Young. The third wife was the current arrogant and hypocritical Victoria Thompson. After Lawrence Barrister finished speaking, the meeting room fell silent. Kayla Song looked at Tristan Young and saw that his face was still calm, as if nothing had happened. "I disagree." Tristan Young sneered sarcastically. Lawrence Barrister advised, "Young master, I hope you'll reconsider, this is the old master's last wish. No need to think, he couldn't protect my mother when he was alive, and now he wants to entangle her after death." Tristan Young chuckled coldly, firmly refusing. These words contained a deeper meaning. Wasn't it Tristan Young who harmed his mother to death? Why did he say the old master couldn't protect Lily Grace? What secrets was the Young family hiding? Why did everyone's expression change whenever Lily Grace's name was mentioned? Kayla Song glanced at the Young family members seated before her, then lowered her eyes, waiting for Lawrence Barrister to draft the agreement. "Kayla Song, do your words still hold true?" Tristan Young asked her coldly. "Which words?" "About the shares and assets." "They do." Kayla Song nodded. "We'll discuss the future later. For now, obey me," Tristan Young stated. Kayla Song, aware of his intentions, smiled and replied, "Yes." Perhaps due to his seniority, or perhaps Tristan Young himself exuded a powerful sense of security, Kayla Song chose to trust him implicitly. "Lawrence Barrister, please transfer Kayla Song's shares to me." As Tristan Young uttered those cold, forceful words, everyone stared at him in shock. "Tristan Young. You truly are a wolf in sheep's clothing. That's what father gave to Kayla. On what grounds do you seize it? Did you even ask for Kayla's consent?" Howard Young slammed the table and stood up furiously. "On the grounds that she and I are married, how about that?" Tristan Young smirked, a chilling glint in his eyes that made others wary. Insane. What madness was Tristan Young planning now? Julia Jiang pointed a crimson-tipped nail at Kayla Song and angrily scolded, "Kayla, when did you become so foolish? Haven't you realized Tristan Young is against us? I'm giving you one more chance, return to the Young family. Otherwise, don't blame me for disowning you as my granddaughter." Kayla Song lowered her head and feigned innocence, saying, "But grandfather wanted me to obey Tristan." "Your grandfather is dead. You are alive. Kayla Song. Do you even have a brain? Have you thrown all the principles I taught you to the dogs?" Julia Jiang raged, grabbing a teacup and hurling it towards Kayla Song. With swift reflexes, Tristan Young pulled Kayla Song into his arms, shielding her from the incoming teacup. Crash, the teacup shattered on the floor. Now, Kayla Song sat on Tristan Young's lap, enveloped by his masculine scent. His strong arm held her small waist tightly, a silent tenderness beneath his cold exterior. Kayla Song blinked at him, feigning naivete, "Thank you, Tristan. How about I give you all the assets grandfather gave me? They're useless to me anyway." Julia Jiang and Ian Young were so furious they nearly spat blood. Inwardly, they cursed, had this girl, Kayla Song, gone completely daft? Or had Tristan Young drugged her with some kind of love potion? "Kayla Song. Don't be crazy." Julia Jiang shrieked, her beautiful face contorted in rage. If Tristan Young gained control of Young Corporation's shares, who knew what tricks he'd pull next? He might even bring down the Young family. "Grandmother, did I do something wrong? Tristan is my husband, what's mine is his, right? Even if Tristan holds the shares, he won't do anything. He promised me." Kayla Song said innocently. Julia Jiang enunciated each word, "I Forbid it. Do you think you have the right to forbid anything? Tristan Young scoffed, his overbearing presence dominating the room. He gestured to his assistant, who projected an image for everyone to see. The photograph, like a massive stone hurled into already rippling waters, instantly created a furious tempest of waves. The image displayed a marriage certificate, the names clearly visible, Richard Young and Lily Grace. Richard Young was Old Master Young's legal name, and the date on the certificate was just a few days prior. Kayla Song was utterly astonished. From the date and names, it was evident that this marriage certificate belonged to her grandfather, yet she had never heard him mention it. If her grandfather still possessed a marriage certificate with Lily Grace, didn't that implicitly prove he and Julia Jiang were never legally married? Furthermore, Lily Grace had been deceased for years. Even if her grandfather hadn't discarded the certificate, legally, the marriage was dissolved. You, Tristan Young, you're truly despicable. Julia Jiang shrieked, like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, her sharp nails digging into the tabletop. Tristan Young looked down with a haughty air, calmly stating, "Do you have a marriage certificate with my father? If so, present it, if not, get out." Julia Jiang was only Young's wife in name, but so what? So what? She laughed venomously, "I've been by your father's side all these years, who dares deny my position? You won't drive me out of the Young family. My belongings, you won't touch a single thing. You little, murderous bastard." Everyone's gaze shifted towards Julia Jiang, even Philip Young appearing slightly taken aback by this revelation. Old Master Young had lived with them for so many years without ever mentioning his romantic life. The law doesn't recognize it. Is this explanation satisfactory? Others might show Julia Jiang deference, but Tristan Young would not. In his eyes, Julia Jiang was nothing more than a dancing clown, ever since the day she insinuated herself into his mother's life. Satisfactory? What does satisfactory have to do with anything? Your father's wife is me. Open your damn dog eyes and see clearly. Julia Jiang panted, unable to contain her rage. She was afraid, terrified of losing her lofty position, of losing that immense fortune. It had taken her so many arduous years to obtain everything she held, how could she simply let it go? Tristan Young sneered, his eyes narrowing with a chilling authority, mockingly stating, "Deluding yourself. Believe it or not, tomorrow I'll have you thrown in jail." Julia Jiang fell silent. The meeting room also became quiet. Could it be that Tristan Young still held some leverage over Julia Jiang? Regardless of what everyone thought, at least without a marriage certificate, Julia Jiang's status was undoubtedly no longer the same. Tristan Young sat upright, his expression indifferent. He didn't intend to deal with the Young family overnight. He just wanted to teach those who openly opposed him, or secretly hindered him, a lesson, to let them know he had enough means to handle them. So, don't act rashly. Afterward, Kayla Song's shares were transferred to Tristan Young. Some people had objections, but they couldn't stop it. Thus, Tristan Young and Philip Young were now equals on the board, both major shareholders, even capable of competing for the chairmanship. Kayla Song herself wasn't very interested in Young Corporation. She could give her shares to Tristan Young without hesitation, largely to direct everyone's attention towards him. However, upon hearing this, her best friend, Nina Tate, couldn't help but call her foolish. Kayla Song. Do you know how much Young Corporation's stock price is currently? Your 20% is worth hundreds of billions. And that's in US dollars. Nina Tate, having just returned from abroad for work, rushed to meet Kayla Song at a cafe to chat. Melodious music played in the cafe. Kayla Song sipped her juice, her eyes curving as she smiled. "What do I need so much money for? My savings plus real estate are enough for me to live on for several lifetimes, Nina. I'm not greedy." "Well, if you're not greedy, then Tristan Young benefits greatly. Did he compensate you afterward? I know you're understanding, but with someone like Tristan Young, it's best to keep your distance and not get too involved with him. Nina Tate said. Seriously. I think everyone is prejudiced against him. Kayla Song's smile faded, her gaze locking onto Nina Tate's with seriousness. If you haven't interacted with him, it's best not to judge his character. At least, in her eyes, Tristan Young was a respectable elder. Nina Tate put a hand to her forehead, saying helplessly, do you know what he does abroad? How his maternal family's business operates overseas? Why did he come back here? My dear fool, some people wear masks from the very beginning, you can't treat them with sincerity. Nina, what are you thinking? I won't fall for him, don't forget I just told you about Henry Young. She had seen the type of person who spoke sweetly but hid a knife behind their back. How could she fall for Tristan Young? During this time, she had thought carefully about what kind of person could subdue the monsters in the Young family. She was very clear. Don't mention that scumbag's name, it's a mood killer. A dog deserves its backside, they're a match made in heaven. Nina Tate snorted, expressing extreme disdain. As soon as she finished speaking, a cup of hot coffee splashed directly onto Nina Tate. Startled by the sudden coffee bath, Nina Tate cursed, damn it. Kayla Song hurriedly handed Nina Tate a tissue, looking up to see Belishan standing nearby, the coffee cup clearly thrown by her. Watch your mouth. You should be calling Kayla Song the slut. Trying to marry Tristan Young while clinging to Henry Young, she deserves to be kidnapped and raped. Belishan hadn't wanted to argue with them, but when she heard Nina Tate call her a slut, she couldn't hold back. Henry Young had no wife, children, or girlfriend, so what if she spent the night with him? She hated the kind of woman who was clearly filthy but pretended to be pure, a typical green tea bitch, a white lotus. Kayla Song didn't utter any insults, looking at Belishan and saying, I cling to Henry Young. Do you think you have a chance? Relationships are complicated, I don't want to argue with you. If you mind my friend's words, I can apologize on her behalf, but you splashed coffee on my friend, you have to compensate. Compensate? Kayla Song, don't be ridiculous. These ragged clothes, and you want me to compensate? Belishan felt Kayla Song was truly daydreaming. Kayla Song remained calm, her gaze steady and gentle. This outfit is Chanel's autumn/winter line, Nina and I bought it together for 28,000 yuan, and the Gucci bag is a classic 2009 model, the current market price is around 70 to 80,000 yuan. Even if you don't compensate fully, you should at least pay for the cleaning, right? Nina Tate wiped her face clean, sneering, forget it, she can't afford it anyway, what's the point of arguing with this kind of person? But what she just said, I can't stand it. What kidnapped and raped? Which eye of yours saw that? Belishan was rendered speechless by Nina Tate's scolding, her eyes widening in anger. Who doesn't know Kayla Song is second-hand goods now? Belishan didn't know where the news came from, but in the past 2 days, people in their circles had been gossiping. Saying that Kayla Song was kidnapped that day and her reputation was ruined, and there were even photos. What the hell do you know? Slandering others requires evidence, a proper basis. Otherwise, people like you are just idiots. Nina Tate said angrily. Forget it. Kayla Song pulled Nina Tate back, whether it's true or not, I know myself, just make her compensate for the money, don't bother with the rest. Nina Tate felt wronged on her behalf. Her family was wealthy, a few tens of thousands of yuan wasn't much, but hearing Belishan slander Kayla Song like that made her uncomfortable. Kayla Song, do you really think my Shan family can't afford a few pennies? Uncle Deng has agreed to let me marry Henry Young. If you want to cause trouble, go ahead. Belishan said loudly. An excuse? Is Kayla Song so idle that she's looking for an excuse to mess with Thomas Shaw? We've talked, and I'm no longer involved. I won't get mixed up in any of his affairs again. Well, then, congratulations to you both. It's good to marry and have children early, Kayla Song said indifferently. As for her reputation, Kayla Song mostly guessed that someone in the Young family was being awfully kind. At 5 p.m., Kayla Song returned to the hospital. Tristan Young's old wounds hadn't healed yet. His previous discharge to attend the board meeting had aggravated his injuries. Kayla Song meticulously cared for him. Although her cooking was still terrible, she could handle everything else. "Tristan, have you heard the nasty rumors about me circulating within the Young family lately?" Kayla Song asked, pouring him a glass of hot water as she sat by his bedside. Tristan Young looked up from his documents, frowned, and said, "You know already." "I wasn't planning on telling you." Not planning on telling her? Could it be that Tristan Young didn't believe the rumors at all? It made sense. After Kayla Song escaped her kidnapping, Tristan Young was the one who rescued her. He knew her condition best. "I transferred the shares to him, and they're pulling another stunt." "Tristan, tell me, when will they ever stop?" Kayla Song asked with a seemingly casual laugh. Tristan Young paused his writing and countered, "Don't you already have the answer?" Actually, she did. It was just that all this scheming was truly exhausting. She was genuinely afraid she couldn't hold on any longer and wanted to find a peaceful city, far away from this mess. But she hadn't yet completed the task her grandfather entrusted to her. She couldn't leave. Moreover, every day Kayla Song shouldered this enormous fortune was another day of unrest, no matter where she went. "I want to go back to the Young family estate. Tristan, what do you think?" Kayla Song asked, looking to Tristan Young for his opinion. Tristan Young was a bit reluctant but respected Kayla Song's decision. "Do you need my men to accompany you?" he asked. "No need. I'm just going for lunch and to see who's trying to stir up trouble with me," Kayla Song said with a smile. Did she doubt his abilities? Tristan Young frowned. "Then I'll go with you." There were already clues regarding the kidnapping. Tristan Young hadn't told Kayla Song, firstly because he didn't want her involved in such dark matters, and secondly, the time wasn't right. Confronting certain members of the Young family now wouldn't be beneficial. Kayla Song was taken aback, genuinely surprised by his favor. She hesitated. "Tristan, you haven't fully recovered. It's not good for you to be moving around. I'll be back quickly. You should rest in the hospital." Tristan Young had 2 slightly fractured ribs and 1 severely fractured rib. Getting out of bed and walking around would take at least half a month, maybe even a full month. His actions were clearly detrimental to his recovery. "I know my own body," Tristan Young said, refusing her the chance to object as he pushed himself up and out of bed. The Young family estate was located in a villa district on the outskirts of Shanghai. It was an old castle from the early 20th century, originally built for a British governor. After the liberation, the Young family shelled out a king's ransom for this castle, so folks round here say they're the real moneybags, old money with a century of history and more dough than you can shake a stick at. The guards knew Tristan Young and wouldn't dare stop him, even the butler treated him with the utmost respect. At the central courtyard, the servants informed them that Grace Young was still praying in the castle's small chapel. Apart from a few female relatives, the rest of the family were either out on business or away working. The staff, ever efficient, had already prepared lunch, laid out in dining room number 1. As Tristan Young and Kayla Song approached the castle, Kayla recalled how Tristan had a room there as a child, decked out like Belgian royalty in Buckingham Palace. There was even a sculpture on the balcony, pinched from the Churchill family's villa, a testament to the old man's love for his grandson. In all her years at the Young estate, Kayla Song had never set foot in Tristan Young's room. It was always locked, a forbidden zone in the eyes of the household staff. Even now, as Tristan Young unlocked the door, Kayla wondered if she was about to witness a room as opulent and magnificent as a grand European castle. "Tristan, how do you have the key?" Kayla Song asked curiously. Tristan Young glanced at her as he entered. "I locked it." "Why wouldn't I have the key?" A dedicated housekeeper kept the room spotless. Luxurious carpets stretched across the floor, the wallpaper intricate and exquisite. Kayla Song felt like she'd stepped into a fairy tale, a palace of gold. If I were still here when you came back, I would have begged to stay in your room for a few days, just to satisfy my curiosity, Kayla Song giggled, teasing him. Tristan Young had left home at 10 and was now 29. Kayla Song had arrived at the Young estate at 6 and was now 23. 6 years between them, Kayla found the age gap endearing. Tristan Young asked casually, "Do you want to stay?" "Not really," she replied, though what she truly desired was to spend a night there, immersed in the magical atmosphere. "You can come stay anytime, as long as they allow us," Tristan Young said. Yes, the key was getting those folks to keep quiet so she and Tristan could come and go freely. Kayla Song smiled, her eyes scanning the room. She soon found a childhood photo of Tristan Young. How handsome he was as a child. His bright smile even revealed dimples. Kayla Song gasped. She had never seen such warmth in Tristan Young's smile. The arrival of Kayla Song and Tristan Young sent a ripple of tension through the Young estate. Julia Jiang rushed back from the chapel upon hearing the news. Auntie Diana, ever perceptive, dispatched someone to summon all the ladies of the house to the dining room. Julia Jiang burst through the door. Kayla Song greeted her respectfully, "Grandma." "Don't call me Grandma. Kayla Song. Look at what you've done. You have no right to call me that." Julia Jiang's disgust for Kayla Song had intensified after the board meeting. "This isn't pleasant at all." Julia Jiang was barely restraining herself from slapping Kayla Song in front of everyone. However, knowing Kayla still held the key to the Swiss bank account, she held back. "I'm glad you're back. But everyone says you're a bad person." Kayla Song's eyes shimmered. "But Tristan has been so kind to me." So, he'd already charmed her into obedience. Julia Jiang scoffed, turning to Tristan Young. "Get out of here. And stop trying to manipulate Kayla Song. I'm making myself clear, I want you to leave her alone." Tristan Young responded indifferently. "You." Julia Jiang clenched her fists. "Tristan Young. Are you behaving like an elder should?" Tristan Young sneered. "What's all the commotion?" I could hear the shouting from afar. "Auntie Margaret, Tristan has rarely come home, don't be so harsh." "Kayla, you're here too." "Good, good." Auntie Margaret beamed, her eyes crinkling at the corners as she nodded. Her gaze lingered on Kayla before softening. "Come, sit." And all of this was Kayla Song's fault. Teresa Young looked at Kayla Song with contempt and hatred. "You bitch. If you truly wished him well, why would you come looking for the peace jade pendant? But no matter how hard you search, you'll never find it, because I took it." Seeing Kayla Song's silence, Teresa Young continued to taunt her, "And, when you were kidnapped, you were. If he knew what kind of person you really are, he would be disgusted. So, take this opportunity to break up with him, you're not worthy of him." At the mention of the kidnapping, Kayla Song abruptly stood up and walked towards Teresa Young. "Firstly, Tristan Young and I are no longer involved, and I won't go looking for him. Secondly, return the peace jade pendant to me, it was a gift from my grandfather and has nothing to do with anyone else. Thirdly, how do you know what happened to me when I was kidnapped?" Kayla Song's voice was gentle, but her tone was firm. Teresa Young, already shorter than Kayla Song, was now forced to look up due to Kayla Song's imposing presence. "How could I not know? I know better than anyone," Teresa Young said with a scornful expression. "Oh. So, were you also secretly plotting something?" Kayla Song asked calmly. Teresa Young scoffed. What was she plotting? She just wanted Tristan Young to give up on this bitch. That's why, when she heard about Kayla Song being assaulted, she gleefully spread the news everywhere. "I just want everyone to know what kind of person you really are," Teresa Young declared. Without proof, you're slandering me. Return the peace jade pendant. Kayla Song's aura grew even stronger. Seeing this, Teresa Young suddenly laughed, pulled the peace jade pendant from her pocket, dangled it in front of Kayla Song for a moment, then cruelly smashed it on the ground. Here you go, pick it up yourself. From now on, it's best to throw away anything related to him, or if I see anything, I'll destroy it. The jadeite peace pendant shattered into pieces on the floor. Kayla Song suddenly slapped Teresa Young across the face and said coldly, "This was a gift from my grandfather. Are you deaf? How many times do I have to say this has nothing to do with Tristan Young?" She was truly enraged by Teresa Young's irrationality. Teresa Young looked at Kayla Song in disbelief, still stunned from the slap. Since childhood, aside from Philip Young, who dared to hit her? Even that hussy, Kwong Nan, wouldn't dare lay a hand on her, yet Kayla Song had just slapped her. Teresa Young's eyes reddened as she cried out, "Kayla Song. You're the one clinging to him. You're the one who caused him to end up like this, how dare you say those things?" Petty, stubborn, and arrogant, Teresa Young was truly spoiled. Kayla Song frowned, about to pick up the pieces of the peace jade pendant, when she saw a man approaching the doorway. It was Tristan Young. Kayla Song hadn't gotten a good look at him at the board meeting last time. Now, seeing him up close, she realized how much weight he had lost. But what did that have to do with her? Kayla Song turned to leave, but Tristan Young held her back. Tristan Young looked at Kayla Song as if he was trying his best to endure something, remaining silent. Teresa Young, who was beside him, hugged his arm and sobbed, "Brother. Kayla Song hit me." She followed Tristan Young and did whatever she wanted. She even threw away Grandpa's jade pendant. Tristan Young suddenly gripped Kayla Song's wrist, his eyes darkening. "Kayla Song, do you really think with me backing you, you can do whatever you want?" Kayla Song struggled in vain, then looked up. Mockingly, "Isn't that the case? Kayla Song. You're crazy." Tristan Young exclaimed in astonishment and anger. Kayla Song actually admitted it. How long have she and Tristan Young been together? Was it because she was favored by Tristan Young that she dared to provoke her like this? Or did she have some other motive from the beginning? All of Henry Young's restraints were crumbling, he was jealous, resentful, nearly insane. Slap, almost without thinking, Henry Young slapped Kayla Song. Teresa Young stumbled back from Henry Young's action, stunned, then began to laugh and cry at the same time. Kayla Song's gaze remained calm, she even endured the stinging pain on her face without a sound. "You've hit me, you've stood up for your sister, can you let me go now?" Kayla Song said. Henry Young withdrew his hand, seemingly awakening from his negative emotions, looking at Kayla Song with a complicated expression. Kayla Song walked out of the room without looking back, her face expressionless, but her heart was ice-cold. She couldn't help but think sarcastically, if she had really chosen Henry Young at the beginning, what would her ending be? A man who couldn't control his emotions, an immature man when faced with a situation, she was fortunate to have chosen reason, not emotion. Henry Young tried to chase after Kayla Song, but Teresa Young stopped him. "Brother. Are you still going to become something for her? I won't let you go to Kayla Song again. She was kidnapped and defiled, now she's rotten and filthy, why don't you let her and Tristan Young be a pair of dogs?" Teresa Young's makeup was smeared, her words vicious in her anger. Henry Young was stunned. "Teresa Young. Who told you that something happened to Kayla Song when she was kidnapped?" "I heard it from someone, don't ask who, anyway, I've already spread the news." Teresa Young faced Henry Young, making no attempt to hide it. Henry Young was shocked, instantly thinking that Teresa Young might have been used. He had clearly seen Kayla Song's condition that day, there were no signs of defilement. Who in the Young family was trying to make things difficult for Kayla Song? He picked up the fragments of the peace amulet and, ignoring Teresa Young's obstruction, followed Kayla Song. Kayla Song met Tristan Young in the hallway. He didn't know what Xiaoyu and Victoria Thompson had said to him, but he was lighting a cigarette, exhaling smoke. Without a word, Kayla Song stepped forward and snatched Tristan Young's cigarette. "Tristan, Uncle's health isn't good, how can you smoke? Are they being too much?" "Too much how?" Tristan Young, having his cigarette snatched, felt a bit unaccustomed. He wasn't at a disadvantage in front of them, he was just stirring up the fight, and he was the fisherman who benefited from it, leisurely going out for a smoke. Kayla Song was stunned, truly feeling that she had overthought it. Tristan Young wasn't like her, he didn't pretend to be ignorant, nor did he suffer losses. Nothing, just felt that Tristan might have something on his mind to come out for a smoke. Smoking while sick isn't good, it won't be easy to recover. Kayla Song said softly. Tristan Young looked at her and noticed a red mark on her face. Against her originally smooth, white skin, the redness was particularly prominent. "Who hit you?" Tristan Young asked coldly. Kayla Song threw away the cigarette but smiled, and didn't want to say, "It's nothing." "Kayla Song, I'm asking who hit you." Tristan Young enunciated each word with forceful emphasis. Did they dare to bully his person? Did they know the consequences? That night at Eastern Majesty, the man who kicked Kayla Song, Tristan Young had him imprisoned for life on drug charges. "Tristan, if I tell you who hit me, what will you do?" Kayla Song hesitated. She didn't want to disobey Tristan Young, but at the same time, she couldn't guess his thoughts. If she said it was Henry Young, how would Tristan Young treat him? After all, they grew up together. She couldn't let Henry Young suffer undue consequences because of some personal matters. Tristan Young looked down at her and coldly uttered two words, "Depends." Just then, Henry Young arrived, standing a few meters away from Kayla Song and Tristan Young, his hand clutching the fragments of the peace amulet. Tristan Young seemed to understand something, his cold gaze falling on Henry Young. He said, "Did you hit Kayla Song?" "Yes." Henry Young didn't deny it. As soon as he finished speaking, Tristan Young stepped forward and punched Henry Young in the face. Kayla Song watched the scene in astonishment. Did Tristan hit someone for her? Henry Young staggered back, holding his face, also in disbelief that Tristan Young would hit him, but he was even more surprised that Tristan Young would protect Kayla Song like this. "Tristan." Kayla Song hurriedly stepped forward and pulled Tristan Young's hand. Tristan Young, tall and aloof, his clothes impeccable, as if he hadn't just thrown a punch, looked at Henry Young and said coldly, "Do you know where I found Kayla Song that day?" That day related to him only the day Kayla Song was kidnapped. Henry Young gritted his teeth and didn't say a word. "I found her not far from your villa." Tristan Young's tone was coldly mocking, his expression unchanged. With Tristan Young's capabilities, how could he not know the relationship between Henry Young and Kayla Song? So when Kayla Song was kidnapped, and he couldn't find her anywhere near the kidnapping location, he went to where Henry Young lived. Sure enough, he found Kayla Song there. Tristan Young had no romantic feelings for Kayla Song, but he had promised to take care of her, and he wouldn't go back on his word. He wasn't the hypocritical old Master Young, and he didn't want to become a despicable person like old Master Young. Henry Young's eyes were filled with complex emotions. He pursed his lips, wanting to speak, but at this moment, all words seemed insignificant. It was he who, after sleeping with another woman, pushed Kayla Song into the arms of another man. So what right did he have to be jealous of Tristan Young? What right did he have to question Kayla Song for not choosing him? "I hit you so you would apologize, for your past behavior, and for your actions today." Tristan Young's gaze carried an intense pressure. "Tristan." Kayla Song pulled Tristan Young's hand again, hiding some bitterness, and said with a smile, "Forget it, we just came to try Auntie Carter's cooking, now that we've tried it, let's go back." Tristan Young turned to look at Kayla Song. Her intention wasn't this. Did she want to leave now because she didn't want to make things difficult for Henry Young? Seeing that Tristan Young didn't react, Kayla Song clung to his arm like a little girl and walked away. Passing by Henry Young, she said, "I feel so tired here, always seeing people I don't want to see. Tristan, I want to go back and rest." Tristan Young still didn't react, but Henry Young closed his eyes. He clearly wanted to apologize, even wanted to tell Kayla Song that he would fix the peace amulet and return it to her. But why wouldn't Kayla Song give him a chance to apologize? Was the person she didn't want to see really him? Kayla Song's words about being tired were actually an excuse. The real reason was that after Tristan Young struck out, she clearly felt the slight tremor in his body. Tristan Young was still injured, and this action could very well aggravate his wounds. She then felt that letting Tristan Young come with her was too risky. How could the words of a strong person be trusted? They never showed their vulnerable side. Tristan Young was rushed straight into surgery upon arriving at the hospital. Sitting outside the operating room, I was overwhelmed with regret. It was a relief that I'd told him to return, otherwise, the consequences could have been dire. I swore I'd never visit the Young family while he was ill again. It was nothing but self-inflicted suffering. Moreover, this time, I hadn't even achieved my revenge, and my protector was now in surgery. After waiting for over an hour, Ethan Carter, his assistant, brought me a warm glass of water and told me not to worry. "I'm not terribly worried, just afraid that Tristan being bedridden like this will set him back another half a month." I couldn't forget the constant stream of documents going in and out of his sick room every day. If anything were to happen to Tristan Young, I would be eternally damned. Ethan Carter smiled and said, "If the boss wants to stay in bed, there's nothing we can do, is there? This situation could have been controlled." I was too hasty. I frowned, my grip tightening around the warm glass, unable to dispel the chill creeping into my heart. Don't overthink it. No one can stop him when he's determined to do something. Ethan Carter, having worked for Tristan Young for years, knew his boss's temperament well. Having also witnessed Tristan Young's kindness towards me, he felt the need to reassure me, but my composure surprised him. How could I explain it? Any other girl would be in tears, yet my eyes were dry. Not long after, Tristan Young was wheeled out of the operating room, still conscious. Before, when that door separated us, I felt numb, but now, seeing him, my heart ached with a bittersweet sorrow. "Tristan," I whispered. Tristan Young's face was pale, his dark eyes even more profound. "Are you hungry, Tristan?" Awkwardly, I grasped for a topic. Tristan Young shook his head, murmuring weakly, "I'm not hungry." "Oh." I lowered my head obediently and followed Ethan Carter into the hospital room. I thought I should take cooking classes. It was embarrassing to ask if someone was hungry when I couldn't cook myself. "Come here." Tristan Young, now lying in bed, glanced at me standing there dazed. "Huh? What is it?" I asked, already by his side. "The slap mark Henry Young left on my face hadn't faded yet." Tristan Young raised an eyebrow and reached out, touching the red mark on my cheek. In that instant, my heart pounded. Feeling the warmth of his fingertips, my face flushed. I could even hear myself swallow. Cough, cough. Damn it. A ridiculous thought crossed my mind, was Tristan Young teasing me? I immediately tried to ease the strange atmosphere between us, asking softly, "What do you want, Tristan?" "The peeled egg I got slapped for, I want to see if it's still edible," Tristan Young said casually. "What? Are you comparing me to an egg?" I pouted. "So, can it be eaten? Anyway, I don't look too bad right now, still beautiful, right?" As a result, Tristan Young uttered 3 words, "Cannot be eaten." Hearing that, I turned to look at him, our faces very close, and I smiled. "Tristan, why can't a boiled egg be eaten? Do you want your efforts on me to go to waste?" Ethan Carter, standing beside us and listening to the whole conversation, suddenly spat out water. It's no wonder he's thinking perversely, who told my last sentence to be so clearly suggestive. Telling a normal man, why aren't you eating me? If you don't eat me, your efforts on me will be wasted. Isn't that a passionate invitation? Tristan Young's eyes lingered on my face for a moment before turning to Ethan Carter. Ethan Carter coughed slightly and straightened up. Boss. Tristan Young ignored him, speaking softly to me, have Ethan Carter take you to put some ice on your face. Yes. Henry Young's hand was heavy. If I don't ice it, the swelling won't go down for a few days. Just as I was about to turn away, I looked at Tristan Young again. Tristan, I want to learn how to cook. Hearing this, Tristan Young was quite surprised. Find a teacher for you. No need, I want to go to a center myself. Seeing Tristan Young's suspicious gaze, I quickly added, my friend knows someone who works there, I'm just asking. It's your business, you decide. Tristan Young said gently. Then I'll cook for you to enjoy, Tristan. Yes. Ethan Carter silently admired that after so many years, his boss still calmly listened to everything I said. Could it be that the cuisine over the years hasn't been enough to enlighten Tristan Young? He really spoils me. At least the eldest daughter of the Turner family, Tristan Young's former fiancé, once showed off her cooking skills to Tristan Young, and as a result, she was immediately sent back home. Thanks to Nina's extensive connections in River City, Layla Song, who had never set foot in a kitchen, was enrolled in a professional cooking course, along with private lessons. As a result, Layla Song could only watch others stir-fry and cook, while she couldn't even cut vegetables properly. This was unbelievable. Layla Song began to doubt whether she could keep up with the professional teacher's pace. However, no one paid attention to her clumsiness. Because whether someone can truly cook can be seen at a glance. Like Layla Song, who had been pampered since childhood, coming here was just to experience the life of a young lady. How could anyone expect anything from her? The 8 great cuisines of China include Lu, Chuan, Su, Yu, Min, Zhe, Xiang, and Hui. The first dish Layla Song learned was Chaozhou 5-spice platter, belonging to Cantonese cuisine taught by a Cantonese cuisine master. This dish particularly emphasizes the pure freshness without blandness, deliciousness without stink, richness without greasiness. Layla Song felt her mind was clouded, even the distinction between spices was vague, so she missed a class. In the second class, a young woman appeared, looking dynamic and professional. Her ponytail was neat, her figure tall and slender. Her face had a childish air with chubby cheeks, creating a beauty that was both mature and innocent, both charming and adorable. Especially, her features were extremely sharp. I'm Emma Taylor, and I'll be teaching Zhejiang and Jiangsu cuisine on behalf of Mr. Daniel Howard for the upcoming period, she smiled. Layla Song was surprised that such an elegant and refined girl was a chef, moreover, a female chef, and couldn't help but admire her. Today, I will teach everyone how to make fish ball soup, Emma Taylor said. Emma Taylor first used a projector to show the steps, then turned on the stove and explained in detail the requirements of the dish. Remove the fish bones. When scraping the fish meat, pay attention to the angle of the knife and the force when scraping, preferably 60 degrees, the finer the better. After the fish balls are molded, put them in a pot of cold water, initially on high heat, then turn down the heat to simmer, control the heat appropriately to maintain the freshness of the fish, and at the same time, to make the fish balls chewy. Finally, arrange the dish on a plate and drizzle the prepared sauce over it. Layla Song's process was extremely disastrous. She didn't know how to remove fish bones and couldn't even scrape the fish meat. Emma Taylor noticed her awkwardness, glanced at the surrounding students, then approached Layla Song, smiling and asking, "Is this your first time cooking?" Hearing this, Layla Song looked up. "Not the first time, I've tried many times but still can't do it." "Let me teach you," Emma Taylor said with a smile, then took another knife and placed it next to her, picking up a live fish. Layla Song watched her skillful movements and curiously asked, "Ms. Taylor, how long have you been cooking?" "About 17, 18 years, Emma Taylor smiled. This girl looked so young, yet it had been 17, 18 years. So, she had known how to cook since she could barely walk. Emma Taylor finished processing the fish and placed it on the cutting board. "Don't be so surprised. My whole family are gourmets. We all feel that the food outside is not as good as what we make ourselves." Hearing this, Layla Song was speechless. What a blessing. Hearing Emma Taylor say that, Layla Song suddenly had an idea: forget about Tristan. Instead, find a man who cooks well and marry him, so she doesn't have to bother with the kitchen. That's enough for now. The most important thing at the moment is to find a solid support for herself. That night, when Layla Song returned to the hospital, she saw another woman next to Tristan Young. The sapphire blue dress exuded elegance and grace. Even without makeup, she couldn't hide the exquisite beauty on her face, carrying a bit of coldness and arrogance like Tristan Young. Aunt. Layla Song was a little surprised to see Clara Dawson visiting Tristan Young. Yes. Clara Dawson seemed to not see Layla Song, her words somewhat perfunctory. The atmosphere was a bit awkward as Layla Song watched Tristan Young and Clara Dawson sitting there without saying anything to each other. Layla Song deliberately took the hot water kettle and went out to refill it. "Brother, I don't agree to let you and Layla Song continue to develop this relationship," Clara Dawson said seriously. "Develop how?" Tristan Young raised an eyebrow. "Didn't you bring her back and put her by your side? I heard that a few days ago, you even hit Henry Young for Layla Song. When did you start doing such indiscriminate things?" "Tristan Young, listen to me, Layla Song will only ruin things for you." At this point, Clara Dawson's heart was full of indignation, but she still tried to suppress her anger. She glanced resentfully out the window. "I haven't been in the country these past few days. Now that I'm back, I won't let you continue to act recklessly. Clara Dawson, are you going to listen to me, or am I going to listen to you?" Tristan Young leaned back in his chair, his eyes somewhat cold. "Anything you want, except this," she insisted firmly. Elder sister Young and elder brother Young were very close. A few years after elder brother Young went abroad, she followed him there. The old man wasn't unaware, he simply turned a blind eye. Elder sister Young didn't attend the last board meeting, suggesting that in old man Young's eyes, she wasn't actually qualified to participate, despite receiving a substantial share of the assets. "Sister, I treat Kayla Song the same way I treat you," elder brother Young replied. Elder brother Young knew he couldn't have feelings for Kayla Song, especially since he had a responsibility to protect his own people. "Brother," she exclaimed anxiously. Elder sister Young was angry but didn't dare to be rude. "You've never treated me like this. You treat me differently from Kayla Song." "I'm afraid," before she could finish, elder brother Young interrupted, "that's because you haven't faced what Kayla Song has." She bit her lip. "Anyway, I don't agree with you keeping Kayla Song by your side. Even if you have a responsibility to protect her, you should hire bodyguards," she said. "Kayla Song gave me 20% of Young Corporation's shares." Elder brother Young's words silenced elder sister Young. She clenched her fists, her eyes swirling with emotion. Everyone knew how much her adoptive father doted on Kayla, even changing his daughter's surname to Kayla's. Yet, Kayla kept her original name. Elder sister Young suspected that old man Young did this to pressure Kayla into marrying into the Young family. She gritted out, "You're only treating Kayla like this because she's valuable, aren't you?" "Brother, don't marry Kayla." Elder brother Young said coldly. "Elder sister Young, this is my business." His cold gaze clearly told her that his affairs were none of her concern. A domineering man like him wouldn't care about gossip. Kayla showered for half an hour. She figured they had cleared things up, so she slowly brought the water bottle back to the hospital room. Just as she was about to open the door, elder sister Young rushed out, bumping into Kayla with her head down and running away. Kayla stepped back, looking at the drop of water on the back of her hand. Guessing that elder sister Young had been crying. But with her proud personality, even if she cried, she would never let anyone see, so she must have run off like that. She asked worriedly, "Tristan, did you argue with elder sister Young?" "Yes." He didn't deny it. "Yes, I saw elder sister Young crying." "Tristan, did you speak too harshly?" she asked unconsciously. Kayla hadn't interacted much with her, only hearing that she was the only one in the Young family who always respected her elder brother Young. And it was for this reason that elder sister Young couldn't stand the Young family environment and lived outside all year round. Elder brother Young looked at Kayla and asked, "When does Kayla cry?" Why would Tristan ask that? She wondered. Kayla stammered, "When I'm very sad, heartbroken, or touched." He said indifferently, "Yes, a person cries when they can't control their emotions. So, elder sister Young crying has nothing to do with me. Understand?" "That's true, but it sounds so indifferent." Kayla nodded, not daring to ask any further questions. Kayla thought Uncle wasn't like other men. Usually, when they see a woman cry, they feel compassion and heartache. Uncle, however, would be indifferent to them. So Kayla had to limit her crying, she couldn't let Uncle become disgusted with her. Seeing Kayla's obedience, Young spoke up, "If Kayla wants to cry, come to me. Tristan is a bit arrogant, isn't he?" Layla Song thought to herself. Hearing no reply from Layla Song, Tristan Young frowned and called out, "Layla Song." "Yes," she looked up at him. Enough of this, Tristan Young looked away, his handsome face resuming its usual cold and noble expression. While Layla Song believed he was apathetic and indifferent to women's tears, he did feel a certain compassion for young girls. Coincidentally, he categorized Layla Song as the latter. Therefore, when Layla Song buried her head in his back, sobbing, his heart skipped a beat. For the first time in his life, he experienced such a strange fluttering sensation. Seeing that Tristan Young was no longer speaking, Layla Song obediently went to wash her hair. As dusk settled, she didn't bother drying her hair properly, just toweling it off a bit before plopping down on the sofa to play mahjong on her phone. Winning several games in a row, she couldn't help but sigh. She truly had no luck with mahjong, using it for cooking was a waste of her talent. "How was class today?" Tristan Young asked, seeing her free. It was truly strange that Layla Song hadn't pestered him about cooking since she returned home. Layla Song pouted, "I haven't learned anything yet." Her studies were going nowhere, yet she could say it so casually. Tristan Young couldn't help but chuckle, "Perhaps you should quit that class. I'll find you a private tutor." "No need, there's a teacher there who cooks incredibly well, even better than Mama Chen." "I must learn her secrets," Layla Song replied. "There's no need to be so stubborn. Even without a housekeeper, I can still cook." Tristan, cooking for her himself. She really wanted to taste Tristan's cooking, but he was still recovering. Layla Song's expression turned serious, "Tristan, the more you do this, the more uneasy I feel. As a younger generation, it's my duty to show respect to my elders. It doesn't make sense for elders to take care of the younger generation. Leave chores like laundry and cooking to me." Tristan Young wanted to laugh, but seeing Layla Song's seriousness, he couldn't bring himself to tease her. "We'll talk when you've actually learned something." That was all he could say in the end. Tristan had said so, and Layla Song was naturally enthusiastic. Today, just after finishing her tutoring class and saying goodbye to Emma Taylor, Layla Song received a call from Tristan Young. He said that this year was Philip Young's 50th birthday, and there would be a big party, and he asked if she wanted to go. "Where will it be held?" Layla Song asked, furrowing her brow. "The Young family estate." "Is this after Tristan is discharged from the hospital?" "Yes." "Then, will he send the invitation himself? Or do we have to go get it?" Layla Song inquired. "Someone will probably bring it over, you don't need to worry about this, Tristan Young replied casually. After discussing it, on the day of Philip Young's birthday, Tristan Young brought Layla Song to the party. The man wore a meticulously tailored suit, his handsome face seemingly unattainable. The woman was gentle but not pretentious, every gesture exuding the air of a prestigious family. Undeniably, the combination of such a male god and a beauty attracted much attention. Is he the fifth son of the Young family? He's quite different from what I imagined. He's deeply cunning, otherwise, how could he be with Layla Song? Do you know who Layla Song is? She's old man Young's precious darling. I heard Layla Song transferred all her shares to Tristan Young. She's young and easily deceived. Marrying Tristan Young, isn't Layla Song afraid of violating social norms? This statement seemed somewhat skewed. In terms of blood relations, Tristan Young and Layla Song were not related. In terms of family relations, Tristan Young had long been expelled from the Young family, and Layla Song had no relationship with him. Therefore, it couldn't be said to be against social norms, and others rarely gossiped about it. The Young family estate was now filled with guests, both solemn and bustling. The party hadn't started yet, but the staff were busy welcoming guests into the banquet hall or the lounge. Of course, some people also took this rare opportunity to visit the back garden of the estate, enjoying the picturesque scenery. It was often said that the back garden of the Young family estate was a paradise, where majestic mountains combined with crystal-clear water to create a stunning natural painting. Its fame attracted many visitors. Tristan Young's appearance with Layla Song by his side caused a ripple among the guests, making everyone turn their heads. Julia Jiang watched from afar, her teeth clenched. Is everything ready? Julia Jiang turned and asked Auntie Diana. Everything is ready. I've arranged for someone to secretly follow Layla Song. As soon as she returns to her room, we'll act, Auntie Diana reported in a low voice. Remember, don't leave any traces, and blame everything on Vivian Lancaster. If we can't take advantage of this opportunity, it'll be a wasted trip. Julia Jiang intended to kill two birds with one stone. Recently, thanks to Philip Young, Vivian Lancaster's position within the Young family had become increasingly secure, her power growing stronger and showing signs of wanting full control. How could Julia Jiang, who had been secretly planning for years, be content to watch Vivian Lancaster triumph? Julia Jiang, my mother asked you to go to the kitchen to help, she can't handle it alone. Teresa Young passed by, saw Julia Jiang, and pulled her hand, speaking with some dissatisfaction. She now had Vivian Lancaster as a strong backing and no longer needed to watch this old woman's face. Therefore, Teresa Young wouldn't use the polite term grandma anymore. A woman in her 40s wanting to be her grandmother? How shameless. Julia Jiang clenched her fists and glared at Teresa Young. Shut up. You disrespectful child, do you know what manners are? Be careful of bringing shame to this family for not knowing how to raise children. Grandma. It's Teresa Young. Just then, Layla Song, hand in hand with Tristan Young, walked up to Julia Jiang and Teresa Young and greeted them with a gentle smile. Seeing this, Julia Jiang immediately changed her cold expression. After glancing at Teresa Young, she immediately spoke warmly to Layla Song. Layla Song, you're here. Layla Song nodded and smiled faintly, yes. Fake. Teresa Young glanced at them and turned to leave. Many guests in the hallway noticed the incident. Julia Jiang didn't want to make a big fuss, so she pretended to be friendly with Layla Song for a bit before leaving. Usually quiet and empty, the estate was unusually lively and bustling today. Groups of children chased each other playfully, and some who passed by stopped to greet Layla Song and Tristan Young. Brother, are you free? Come with me to the study. Suddenly, Lillian Young emerged from a room. Seeing Tristan Young, she hurried over, her face somewhat unhappy. What's the matter? Tristan Young showed no intention of moving. Lillian Young glanced at Layla Song and said, there's something. Catching Lillian Young's meaningful look, Layla Song gently released Tristan Young's hand and smiled slightly. Tristan, if you have something to do, go ahead. I'll wait for you in my room. Layla Song thought, with so many people around, perhaps no one would choose this moment to act. However, how could Layla Song have imagined that there would be venomous snakes in the bathroom? Layla Song froze, the image of venomous snakes from her school textbooks flashing through her mind. Their heads were triangular. Now, looking at the venomous snakes in the bathroom, every single one had that same shape. They were insane. They were all insane. Besides the Young family, who knew she was afraid of snakes? She didn't even dare to watch TV programs related to snakes. She had just heard a strange noise in the bathroom and went in to check. As soon as she pulled back the shower curtain, she saw a scene that made her soul leave her body. Layla Song was so frightened that she froze, goosebumps covering her skin. She couldn't even tell how many snakes there were. She felt nauseous looking at the coiled snakes, it was disgusting. Suddenly, a snake crawled out. It coldly observed Layla Song with bloodthirsty eyes. Layla Song flinched backward. Immediately after, another snake started crawling towards her. Layla Song's body trembled involuntarily, her pupils contracting to the size of pinpricks. If bitten by one of these venomous creatures, her life would be forfeit, let alone her place within the Young household. With the single thought of escape consuming her mind, Layla Song struggled to maintain her unsteady posture, slowly retreating, fearing any sudden movement might provoke the viper before her. Tiny beads of sweat dotted her forehead, even the mere 5 or 6 meters felt like an insurmountable chasm. Glancing at the bathroom door, now just a step away, Layla Song gasped, involuntarily swallowing hard. Her small face, pale as a sheet, betrayed her stark terror. Her slender fingers had just grazed the bathroom doorknob when the sound of the lock clicking echoed from outside. Layla Song jolted, pushing gently against the door, only to find it unyielding. Someone had locked her in. The audacity of the Young household, seizing this opportunity to strike against her. She had truly underestimated their ruthlessness. The serpent's hiss sent Layla Song's legs crumpling beneath her, collapsing by the door. If the Young family was making a move, there would be no one nearby to help. Crying out might not attract help, but it could very well agitate the venomous snakes. The stench of the snakes hung heavy in the air as Layla Song carefully retrieved her phone from her small bag. Her trembling fingers fumbled with the screen, repeatedly missing the icons. If she could just reach Tristan, he would surely save her. But in this dire situation, her phone was set to vibrate. Would Tristan even hear it? Layla Song had never prayed so fervently, wishing she could prostrate herself before her ancestors' graves for the chance to escape this nightmare, for Tristan Young to hear the ringing. Trembling, she dialed his number, her breath catching in her throat. Each ring resonated like the impending doom. After 5 or 6 rings, someone answered. A surge of joy coursed through Layla Song, but as her gaze fell upon the venomous creatures, a chilling realization struck her. They had slithered out of the bathtub. Tongues flicking, heads raised, they were inching towards her. Layla Song's scream pierced the air, causing Tristan Young to frown on the other end of the line. Layla Song, what's wrong? Tristan Young's voice held a detached coolness, oblivious to the peril she faced. Tears choked Layla Song's voice as she stammered, Tristan, help me, I'm locked in, stay back. Snakes, in the bathroom, so many, I'm scared. She barely managed to utter a coherent sentence before a silence fell on the other end, followed by Dong Hin's shriek. Tristan Young's footsteps faltered, then he broke into a run. Each heavy footstep felt like a blow to Tristan Young's heart. Though he'd left the Young family long ago, he knew Layla Song was terrified of snakes. Layla Song, what's wrong? Tristan Young's voice held a hint of aloof indifference, oblivious to the danger Layla Song was in. Hearing the jumbled sounds from the other end of the line, a flicker of relief washed over her. But seeing the venomous snake so close, she couldn't help but tremble violently. From the doorway, she had retreated to the corner, her back drenched in sweat in just a few short minutes. Fighting back the wave of dizziness, she saw one of the snakes suddenly open its mouth wide. Her eyes widened in terror as she rolled to the side, her back hitting the door, the spot where she'd been moments before now splattered with a stream of liquid. Venom, poison. Don't come any closer. Her small face crumpled in fear, shaking her head, unsure of what to do. The connected phone lay less than a meter away, but she stared at the venomous snakes watching her, too terrified to move. Unbeknownst to her, on the other end of the line, he was experiencing a small hiccup. Such as, bumping into someone. A servant. A servant in the young household, he knew it well. With his superior agility, colliding with a cautious servant was impossible. Seeing the servant's panicked demeanor, a flicker of coldness crossed his eyes, the chill on his face deepening. A frigid voice escaped his thin lips, his towering figure looming like an interrogator. "Where are you rushing off to in such a hurry?" The servant lowered their head, stammering, "The item madam needs, I haven't delivered it yet. I fear her punishment." Looking at the servant before him, he spoke coldly, a hint of annoyance in his voice, "You belong to Evelyn Blake." Before the servant could speak, he cut them off icily, "I have many ways of knowing who you serve. Whether you lie or not is your affair." The servant trembled, nearly collapsing under the weight of his imposing presence. I belong to Madam." He smirked coldly, a flicker of worry in his eyes, "Follow me." His pace quickened, and he noticed the servant's growing unease, bordering on frantic. This undoubtedly had something to do with Evelyn Blake. Throwing open her door, he rushed straight to the bathroom. The silence was deafening. His heart tightened as he cautiously called out, "Kayla Song, are you in there?" There was no response. Panic welled up from the depths of his being, spreading through his mind, consuming him. His thick eyebrows furrowed, revealing his agitation. "The key," he addressed the servant, his voice glacial, emanating from the depths of an ice cavern. The servant, trembling, retrieved the key and presented it to him with shaking hands. He thought everything was settled, but unexpectedly encountered Tristan Young. If she didn't comply with Tristan Young's demands, her life would undoubtedly be forfeit. Unlocking the door, Tristan Young placed his hand on the knob, feeling a tremor he hadn't realized he possessed. Inhaling deeply, he opened the door, a small form collapsing at his feet. Tristan Young glanced into the bathroom, two venomous snakes, fangs bared, poised menacingly less than a meter from her. He swiftly caught her around the waist, her head falling against his chest. Tristan Young locked the door and gently laid her on the bed. He examined every inch of her skin, fearful of overlooking any detail. Her long dress, disarrayed by the fall, revealed provocatively long, pale legs. Tristan Young frowned, a flicker of dark desire ignited within him, quickly suppressed. Drawing the covers over her, Tristan Young exhaled in relief, then cast a frigid glance at the servant. "Who ordered you to do this?" Though he suspected concubine Tuong, he required the servant's direct confession. The servant, terrified, looked at him, his voice trembling in the icy atmosphere. It was the madam." Tristan Young gave a cold laugh, his gaze withdrawing. He glanced out the window, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows. Preoccupied with her safety, Tristan Young hadn't noticed the room's decor. He realized the place she'd lived for over a decade was truly beautiful. Her small face was pale, her eyelashes casting shadows on her cheeks. As his fingertip brushed her eyelid, she frowned. Tristan Young recoiled as if burned, looking down at her. She blinked, her naturally bright and expressive eyes slowly opening. She lay fragile and weak on the bed. Tristan Young observed her, her vulnerability stirring a deep emotion within him. "Casino." The cold voice startled her, and she slowly turned to Tristan Young. Her eyes were red-rimmed, tears welling like mist. She whimpered softly, "Tristan. I was so scared." His tall frame lowered as Tristan Young sank onto the edge of the bed. He stroked her hair, surprised by its unusual softness. Tristan Young's voice, melodious and soothing, calmed her fears. She sobbed, clinging to him like a child. Her vulnerability shook him to his core. Fighting back tears, she sobbed, murmuring something even Tristan Young couldn't decipher. There, don't cry anymore. Be good." Tristan Young comforted her gently. A figure paused at the open bedroom door, hesitating before slowly stepping inside. Hearing the noise, she turned her head. Victor Young. Victor Young showed no warmth, not even glancing at her. "Brother, I thought you had something important, but it's just for her." Despite the critical tone, she didn't seem to mind, even offering a sweet smile. "Anything else?" Tristan Young asked, holding her close. Tristan Young's question rendered Victor Young speechless for a moment. "Today's a grand celebration. Standing here is quite rude." Was it blatant jealousy, a deliberate provocation? He simply wanted to see her lose her composure. "Excuse me, miss, I'm feeling unwell. I won't be able to attend the rest of the event. Please convey my apologies." "And Tristan?" Kayla Song looked shyly at Tristan Young, continuing only after seeing his lack of objection, "Will stay with me." Victor Young's hands clenched behind her back. Her gaze fixed on Kayla Song's beautiful face. "Brother, you really aren't going? Today's very important." Tristan Young nodded without hesitation, a low yes rumbling in his throat. Victor Young's expression remained calm, as if Tristan Young's attendance was of no consequence. But inside, a furious fire raged. Victor Young turned and left without another word, her movements decisive. The maid, cowering in the corner, crept towards the door. She thought Tristan Young hadn't noticed, but a chilling aura enveloped her, making her tremble. Kayla Song followed Tristan Young's gaze, her brow furrowed in thought. A knowing smile touched her lips as if she'd realized something. With an air of innocent curiosity, she tilted her head and asked, "Tristan, who was that?" Tristan Young, understanding her intent, casually replied, "Just a servant." Kayla Song smoothly changed the subject, feigning understanding. "I thought you were so engrossed in conversation that you didn't hear my phone." Tristan Young raised an eyebrow, pulling his phone from his pocket and handing it to her. "See for yourself." Kayla Song glanced at him, puzzled. He seemed unwilling to explain. As she swiped the screen, she heard the unlock sound. Looking up at Tristan Young, her dark eyes sparkled. "Your phone, it doesn't seem to be on vibrate." Tristan Young nodded, sitting beside her. "It's all right, nothing happened." Kayla Song smiled. "Yes." He put his phone away, his expression unchanged. If only he hadn't dismissed the celebration so casually, not even bothering to set his phone properly. Otherwise. "Later, whenever you encounter the Young family, you must stay close to me, understand?" Tristan Young didn't lower his voice, on the contrary, it seemed as if he intentionally wanted the servant to hear. His dark eyes seemed to pierce Kayla Song's soul. She bit her lip slightly and nodded, her face flushing involuntarily. Feeling the heat rising on her face, Kayla Song leaned to one side. Tristan Young looked at his watch, frowned, and said pensively, "It's almost time." Kayla Song turned her head in confusion, her eyes wide with suspicion. "What? What's almost time?" Tristan Young glanced at her indifferently, her bashful appearance quite endearing. He stroked her smooth hair, pulled Kayla Song into his arms, and rested his chin on her head. His lips moved slightly. Tristan Young pondered for a moment before saying, "Nothing, you'll know in a bit." Kayla Song's pupils suddenly widened, her heart pounding as if it wanted to leap out of her chest, the sound echoing in her ears. Her breath hitched, her face flushing crimson. Just as Tristan Young had said, less than a week later, a commotion could be heard approaching from afar. Kayla Song blinked in surprise, and in the next second, the door was abruptly flung open. A group of people entered, instantly filling the room. Among the crowd, Henry Young saw the two embracing. A flicker of pain crossed his eyes, but he quickly retreated, hiding himself within the throng. The matriarch strode forward, her voice impatient. "What are you two doing? Have some decorum in front of everyone." Kayla Song tried to push Tristan Young away, but he tightened his hold, embraced her once more, then released her and stood up. Her face flushed, Kayla Song turned to the matriarch, her voice soft and sweet, "Grandmother." The disgust in the matriarch's eyes was evident, but with so many people present, she had to maintain Kayla Song's face. The matriarch took 2 steps forward, feigning concern. "Kayla, Alice Lin told me you weren't feeling well, are you hurt anywhere? You must know that today is your grandfather's birthday, don't do anything careless." While the matriarch was still scheming, Alice Lin arrived.